Priya and Aarav's wedding was meant to be a dream come true, but behind the glittering celebrations in Canada lay a shocking secret that would turn their fairy tale into a deadly nightmare. The wedding was everything Priya had dreamed of: bright colors, sparkling lights, and the hum of excited voices filling the air. Her family had spared no expense, arranging a ceremony that looked as if it had been lifted from a magazine. Priya herself wore a traditional red and gold lehenga, adorned with intricate embroidery, the weight of the fabric almost symbolic of the new life she was about to enter. She had always imagined her first meeting with her husband would be filled with warmth and smiles, and for a moment, she believed she had stepped into a fairy tale. Friends and relatives surrounded her, offering congratulations, laughter, and endless selfies, each one capturing the perfect image of happiness. Aarav, on the other hand, seemed confident, composed, and slightly distant. His sharp features and formal attire gave him an air of authority, and Priya felt a mixture of admiration and nervousness. He greeted her politely, but his eyes carried a calculating intensity she couldn't quite understand. Family members whispered about his achievements and the life he could provide in Canada, painting a picture of security and opportunity. Priya's parents smiled with pride, believing they had secured a promising future for their daughter, unaware of the turbulence that lay ahead. The celebrations continued late into the evening, with music, dance, and endless rounds of photography. Every guest marveled at the apparent harmony between the bride and groom. Priya, however, felt a small, nagging unease, a faint whisper in the back of her mind that something was not entirely right. She pushed it aside, telling herself it was merely the anxiety of leaving home and starting life with someone she barely knew. Little did she realize that this sense of discomfort was the first hint of the darkness that would later shatter the illusion of her perfect wedding day. Priya's flight landed in Toronto late in the evening, and the city skyline glittered like a sea of stars as the taxi carried her from the airport. Everything felt new and overwhelming: the chill in the air, the smell of the city, and the distant hum of traffic. She clutched her suitcase tightly, her heart racing with excitement and nervousness. This was her first time leaving India, stepping into a life that had been carefully planned for her. She tried to calm herself, imagining a warm welcome, laughter, and the start of a happy marriage. Aarav met her at the airport, dressed neatly in a tailored suit, his expression unreadable. He greeted her politely, offering a brief smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Priya noticed how controlled and calculated he seemed, the quiet precision in his movements, the way he avoided unnecessary conversation. His family's car waited outside, sleek and black, a stark contrast to the familiar vibrancy of her hometown streets. The ride to the house was silent, broken only by the occasional polite comment from Aarav. The city passed by in a blur of lights, and Priya felt a subtle tension settling in her chest, though she wasn't yet sure why. The house itself was grand, much larger than anything she had imagined, but there was a strange coldness about it. The walls were immaculate, the furniture elegant but stiff, as if designed to impress rather than comfort. Aarav's family greeted her formally, their smiles polite but distant. The atmosphere was heavy, almost suffocating, and Priya could not shake the feeling that she was being closely observed, every movement noted. Despite the lavish welcome, something felt off. The quiet control, the careful distance, and the subtle unease in the air left Priya with a lingering sense of doubt. She told herself it was merely first-day jitters, but little did she know, this initial discomfort was the first sign of the storm that would soon engulf her life in Canada. Aarav had insisted on showing Priya around the house after she had settled in, but as they walked through the pristine halls, he couldn't hide the flicker of suspicion in his eyes. It began with a simple glance at her phone, left unattended on a table, and what he saw made his stomach twist. Multiple social media accounts, some under different names, others with photos and messages she had carefully hidden, revealed a side of Priya he could never have imagined. Private chats hinted at relationships she had kept secret, connections to people neither he nor his family had ever heard of, and messages that contradicted the innocent image she had presented. The carefully constructed persona of a devoted bride began to crumble before his eyes, layer by layer, leaving him both shocked and enraged. Aarav spent hours uncovering the truth, scrolling through her digital life as though each message, each photograph, was a clue to a puzzle he didn't want to solve but could not ignore. What had seemed like minor inconsistencies now formed a web of deception, and he realized that Priya's carefully maintained facade hid a life far more complex than anyone had known. He discovered traces of secret friendships, undisclosed travel plans, and financial transactions that raised serious questions. Every revelation left him more unsettled, as if the image of the woman he had agreed to marry was slowly slipping into someone entirely unknown. For Priya, the night began with excitement and anticipation, but quickly turned tense as she sensed Aarav's growing unease. She had no idea he had uncovered her hidden life, and the room, once filled with anticipation and joy, now held a charged silence. What started as curiosity had turned into suspicion, and what could have been a normal wedding night was now a dangerous collision of trust, secrets, and betrayal. The hidden truths that Aarav uncovered would set the stage for a chain of events neither of them could have imagined. The air in the house grew heavier as the night wore on. Aarav could no longer contain the anger and confusion building inside him. Every hidden message, every secret detail he had uncovered about Priya's double life festered in his mind, twisting his emotions into a dangerous mix of betrayal and rage. He had imagined a wedding night filled with hope and closeness, but instead, he faced a reality he could not comprehend. The facade of the perfect bride had shattered, leaving a stranger in the room with him. Priya, on her part, sensed the change in Aarav's demeanor. His polite distance had shifted into cold suspicion, his sharp glances and tense movements speaking louder than any words. The joyous celebration that had accompanied her arrival in Canada seemed like a distant memory, replaced by unease and apprehension. She tried to maintain composure, hoping to explain herself and calm the mounting tension, but every attempt seemed to ignite further suspicion. The house, once filled with laughter and music, now felt like a trap, the walls closing in as the night deepened. The confrontation escalated quickly. What had begun as quiet questions and subtle inquiries soon turned into accusations. Aarav's frustration and sense of betrayal made reason almost impossible to maintain, while Priya struggled to justify the secrets he had discovered. The emotional intensity was overwhelming, creating a volatile atmosphere that teetered on the edge of disaster. The carefully constructed world of appearances that both had relied upon was collapsing. As hours passed, the tension became suffocating. Anger, fear, and confusion collided, leaving both in a state of emotional turbulence. The wedding night, meant to symbolize the beginning of their life together, had transformed into a prelude to tragedy. The fragile trust between them had been destroyed, setting the stage for the horrific events that were about to unfold. The night had grown darker, both outside and within the house. Tension that had been simmering all evening finally erupted into violence. Aarav's anger, fueled by feelings of betrayal and disbelief, became uncontrollable. The room, which had once been filled with decorations, laughter, and the excitement of newlyweds, transformed into a scene of chaos and terror. Priya, terrified and desperate, tried to defend herself, but the shock of the moment left her vulnerable. The realization that the life she had tried to hide could lead to such brutality hit her too late. The violence was sudden and unrelenting. Every hidden secret, every unspoken doubt, seemed to explode in a moment of rage. The lavish wedding night, meant to celebrate love and union, became a nightmare. Furniture was overturned, decorations torn apart, and the sounds of struggle echoed through the house. Neighbors far away in the quiet suburb might have noticed only the faintest disturbance, completely unaware of the horror unfolding inside. What had been a dream of a new life ended in a horrifying tragedy that neither family nor friends could have anticipated. By the early hours of the morning, the room was silent, but the air remained heavy with the evidence of the violent events. Priya's life, full of promise and potential, had been brutally cut short. The opulence of the home, the beauty of the wedding, and the celebrations outside could not mask the darkness that had taken over that night. In the aftermath, the house stood as a haunting reminder of what had transpired. The perfect images captured in wedding photos now seemed almost grotesque in hindsight. The story of that night would shock everyone who heard it, highlighting how quickly appearances can deceive and how fragile trust and love can be when secrets are uncovered and anger is left unchecked. After the horrifying events of that night, investigators arrived to uncover the truth hidden behind the walls of the elegant house. What they found went far beyond the immediate violence. Priya's double life was more intricate and alarming than anyone had suspected. Her secret accounts, hidden friendships, and undisclosed financial dealings painted a picture of a life carefully concealed from everyone around her. Messages hinted at relationships with men who had no connection to her family or Aarav, and there were signs of plans and promises that had been kept entirely secret. Each discovery added another layer of complexity to a story that already seemed impossible to comprehend. The investigation revealed that Priya had also been handling debts and commitments that her family and new husband were unaware of. Her carefully maintained image of innocence and devotion had masked a web of deception, one that stretched far beyond the walls of the house. Even the most meticulous scrutiny could not untangle every thread of her hidden life, leaving authorities, friends, and family struggling to understand how such secrecy could coexist with the joyous celebrations just hours earlier. For her family back in India, the revelations were devastating. They had believed in a simple, obedient daughter stepping into a promising new life, yet the truth shattered that illusion. The glamorous wedding, the smiles, and the celebrations now seemed like a cruel cover for the chaos that had been brewing unnoticed. Investigators documented every message, photograph, and transaction, piecing together a timeline that showed the meticulousness of her concealment and the magnitude of the secrets she had carried into her marriage. The house, once a symbol of elegance and promise, became a scene of shocking revelation. Every corner seemed to whisper the hidden truths of Priya's life. It became clear that the tragedy was not only the violence itself, but also the carefully kept secrets that had fueled it, showing how appearances can mask danger and deception in ways no one could anticipate. The investigation into Priya's death quickly drew the attention of local authorities, who treated the case with the utmost seriousness. Canadian police began meticulously collecting evidence, examining every detail of the house where the tragedy had occurred. Forensic teams documented bruises, marks of struggle, and signs of the violent confrontation, carefully photographing each element to build a complete picture of the fatal night. Priya's phone and digital accounts were seized, allowing investigators to trace every hidden conversation and secret connection that had fueled the conflict. The depth of the deception stunned them, revealing a life full of secrets that had led directly to the fatal confrontation. Aarav was taken into custody, and his interrogation became a pivotal moment in the case. Police sought to understand his mindset, the escalation of anger, and the precise sequence of events that had turned a wedding night into a murder scene. Evidence from the house and digital devices painted a story of betrayal, mistrust, and emotional volatility. Investigators noted how quickly arguments had escalated, how a mix of hidden truths and uncontrolled rage could result in catastrophic outcomes, and how seemingly perfect appearances could mask dangerous realities. Media outlets picked up the story, highlighting the shocking contrast between the lavish wedding and the violent tragedy that followed. Experts in criminal psychology weighed in, analyzing both Priya and Aarav, examining how secrets, deceit, and emotional pressure could converge to create an explosive situation. Families and communities were left stunned, struggling to reconcile the image of a joyful celebration with the brutal reality. The investigation revealed not only the events of the night, but also a deeper truth about trust, appearances, and hidden lives. Every detail uncovered added to the growing sense of horror, showing how a single night could destroy lives and leave a lasting impact on everyone involved. The case became a stark reminder of how quickly control can slip and how deadly deception can be when combined with unchecked anger. The aftermath of Priya's death left a trail of grief, anger, and unanswered questions that reached far beyond the walls of the house. Families on both sides were left shattered, struggling to comprehend how a joyous wedding could end in such horror. Her parents in India were devastated, tormented by guilt and disbelief, replaying every decision that had led their daughter to Canada. Friends and extended family were haunted by the contrast between the vibrant celebrations they had witnessed and the violent tragedy that had unfolded shortly afterward. What had seemed like a fairy tale marriage had become a cautionary tale about trust, secrecy, and the fragility of appearances. Communities and media outlets dissected the case, emphasizing the dangers of hidden lives and the explosive potential of anger left unchecked. Experts highlighted how cultural pressures, expectations, and the desire to maintain an image could create environments ripe for deception and disaster. Priya's double life, once hidden behind her carefully crafted persona, became a central focus of discussion, illustrating how secrets, when left unaddressed, can have deadly consequences. The case also sparked conversations about mental health, communication, and the importance of transparency in relationships, particularly in arranged marriages where families and social expectations exert immense pressure. Even years later, the story continued to haunt those who had been close to Priya and Aarav. The house where the tragedy occurred stood as a chilling reminder of how quickly love, hope, and celebration could turn into anger, fear, and death. Every photograph, every message, and every detail revealed during the investigation painted a picture of a life cut short, a life filled with hidden struggles and dangerous choices. Priya's story became a grim lesson, showing that appearances can deceive, that secrets can destroy, and that the consequences of betrayal can be fatal. It left the world reflecting on the delicate balance of trust, honesty, and the thin line between love and violence, reminding everyone that the most beautiful,